Hello and welcome to another edition of Day Trip, where we go around and look at stuff and bring it to you.
Today we're in Americus, Georgia.
Stay tuned, it's going to be fun. Stacey and I on the road again. Heading south, we passed through Richland, a lovely little town with many of its old buildings still standing, which led us to more of what you saw on the intro, which in turn led us to this, Preston, Georgia, a small sleepy town whiling away the day in the sun. Very, very quiet town. But there's a sign that tells where we're going, which in turn led us to more of this. Rural landscape, your odd shack sitting by the road. Welcome to Sumter County. Largely agricultural. There's corn, sunflowers, cotton, but there's something else. This is the home of the 39th President of the United States, Jimmy Carter. The first stop on our trip is Plains. Jimmy Carter grew up here and still lives here. This is a beautiful, beautiful town. Signs of agriculture are everywhere. Plains is best known for Jimmy Carter and its peanuts. Then there's the railroad track, host to Sam Shortline, a passenger train that runs from Plains to Cordele. Billy Carter's service station. Billy was Jimmy's brother. It is no longer a service station, but definitely worth checking out. Plains has painstakingly, beautifully landscaped the center of town. Then there's the old train depot, Jimmy Carter's campaign headquarters. Stacey patiently waits while I shoot. Then we walked the sidewalks of Plains, where we found this smiling peanut.
We're in Plains, Georgia in Sumter County, and this is a town on the way to Americus.
But it's much more than that. Plains has revitalized its old buildings into viable shops, each one adorned with a plaque telling its history. The old bank building and the M&M cash store, each with a vintage picture of Plains. But the old Carter Peanut Warehouse is where we're going. Inside we met nice people, Johnny and Andrea Walker, who gave us the lowdown.
This store was actually Jimmy Carter's warehouse and office prior to him becoming president. Today it's kind of our gathering place. We come here for the fantastic peanut butter ice cream. They have things from Carnegie Farms. We have peanuts that we get here. You can get them in the shell or shelled out. So we buy a lot of things from here, and it's all a very friendly group of people to work with, and we love their neighbors.
Fudge, don't forget the fudge.
Oh, the fudge, absolutely.
The fudge has won awards, so come check it out.
And the brittle, especially again, talking about the store, the candies and stuff. It's in a store down in Ashburn today, and I saw the peanut brittle and stuff that was there. So it really reaches a long way.
Peanut Festival is in September. It used to be you could set your clock by the 4th Saturday of September. Now they're varying it a little bit. This year it should, I think it's the third weekend. I want to say it's the third weekend this year.
Very cool. There are so many things to see here. You can't see it one day. It's a small town, but There are so many things to
Sam's
see.
Short Line.
Yeah, Sam's Short Line.
The train
makes
comes
a stop
through
here.
all the weekends, usually Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You've got all the historical markers, the school, the homestead, the train depot.
Yeah, the train depot, which was President Carter's National Campaign headquarters. You have where Miss Carter grew up less than a block from here. So there's so much history here. It's actually built in. And people don't realize how many things actually are developed here, made here, and stretch out across all Southeast.
As you may have guessed, Plains, Georgia is no small town fading into the mists of history. It is vital with a booming and far-reaching economy and really friendly people.
If you come to Plains, don't leave without the peanut butter ice cream. You gotta taste it.
In fact, the peanut butter ice cream was delicious. Thank you, Johnny, for treating us. The fudge, Carrie Gonzalez's own recipe, has won major awards in the state. But there's more. Natural peanut butter.
This is natural peanut butter, and we sell a lot of it to the people that can't have a lot of salt and sugar, the diabetics. And it's really good. It's really good warm and on toast.
As you can see, the peanut butter is made right here. And Stacey did not leave the store without buying a souvenir, one of the fun things to do on a day trip.
I bought a t-shirt in the Plain Peanut store. And it says, I went nuts in Plains, Georgia, on the back.
My grandfather was the police chief of Plains for some years. Here stands his office. Today, the interior is used for storage, but I'm confident that sometime down the road, someone will revitalize this into a nice shop. And across the road, behind this service station, in this vacant lot, used to stand my grandmother's house. Moved some time back. And back on the road, more than a little sad to leave Plains, Georgia, we headed on towards our next destination. One of the things that has always attracted me about this part of the country is the flat land. Perfect for agriculture. Signs of it are everywhere. Old barns, fields, homesteads, silos still standing. But before we leave Plains completely, we had to stop here. The Plains, Georgia Welcome Center. There is nothing that I can describe that the video does not show. The Plains Welcome Center land is practically a Garden of Eden. Inside, we met Amy Weiss.
Tell me a little bit about Plains, about maybe a little history of Plains.
Okay, Plains was settled in 1885. It was actually incorporated in 1896. And as everyone knows, it is the home of our President Jimmy Carter. He still resides here. The National Park Service maintains the Jimmy Carter National Historic Site here in Plains, which is composed of his boyhood farm, the museum, which used to be the school here in Plains, and the train depot, which was used as the campaign headquarters. Right. So we do attract a lot of tourists to this area. Estimated, I think our county probably, we probably have over 500,000, at least 500,000 tourists in Sumter County, Georgia each year.
That's great.
And yeah, so I gathered facts of that from Andersonville and from our park service and from here. And we have an excursion train that comes in every year. So that's where the figures came up for that. So.
Very cool.
Right. It's great for the economy here. So we are primarily an agricultural and tourism county, and we're proud of that.
And what role does the Welcome Center play?
We greet people here from all over the world. They come in for directions for all kinds of attractions and events, and we just have that information available to them.
Very cool.
And it's an exciting. We meet a lot of exciting people.
Mm-hmm.
And
I can imagine.
We'd like to see them leave with a smile on their face and their information in their hands that they need. That's our primary function here.
Well, Amy, I thank you very, very much.
Thank you too.
Be sure and come and check out Plains, and make sure you stop here at the Welcome Center. It's really cool in here.
This is the field that you see next to us is owned. It's a part of the University of Georgia. It's an agricultural research center here.
It truly is beautiful. You really should come here. Inside, Stacey got a eureka.
The only welcome center in Georgia that's not on a state board.
The one in Plains is the only one that's not located on one of the state lines.
The Plains Welcome Center has everything you need to plan your excursion across the county and beyond. Pamphlets, postcards, this is a different day trip yet to come. And if you're a political history buff, there is all kinds of information about our 39th president, Mr. Jimmy Carter, who still lives here and teaches Sunday school. We looked around and eventually meandered back outside, walking around the grounds in the green grass and the warm sun. Here we found a nice little area that caught Stacey's eye.
This is a little butterfly garden outside of the Welcome Center because Rosalind Carter is very interested in something that's called the Butterfly Trail. And here is an example of a butterfly garden. And at the Welcome Center, they gave me this paper that kind of explains like what to plant to attract butterflies. And if you'd like more information, you can go to www.jimmycarterinfo.com.
Then I rediscovered something about this area.
It's a beautiful, beautiful place. It's a nice place just to while away some time. But the one thing that I have forgotten about this area, as you may have seen in the Lake Blackshear 4th of July episode, is the gnats.
Before leaving, Stacey and I decided to spend a little time and enjoy the scenery, soaking in the day. But eventually we had to get back on the road and head toward our next destination, with a sidetrack. One of the features of agricultural areas everywhere are the dirt roads. Now, a dirt road is more than just a road. There really is something special about spending the day driving down dirt roads on a Saturday afternoon. And the ones in Sumter County have an interesting feature in that many of them are blood red. This is caused, I believe, by high levels of iron in the dirt. Though this particular road seems more sandy than red, I have seen dirt roads down here as red as a bottle of paint. Then back on the paved road towards our next destination. Our next destination being Americus, Georgia. Some interesting information. Back in the early 1800s, there were two towns out here, Danville and Americus. Danville was situated on what is today Danville Bluff, overlooking the Flint River. Danville was outgrowing Americus. It had the first brick house in the county, schools, churches, everything. Americus was lagging behind. Then the railroad came to Americus, and Danville started a decline. By the early 1900s, I read that corn grew in the streets of Danville, and by the 1950s, only a few old-timers even remembered that it was there. Americus continued to grow and became what it is today. Danville slipped into the mists of legend. Today, there are only woods. If you're interested in learning more about Danville, if you are a history buff like myself, simply Google Danville, Sumter County. There's a wealth of information if you look hard enough.
Twin bridges take you up.
But our destination today is Americus. We go up the twin bridges that take you in and out of Americus. These used to be wooden bridges, if I'm not mistaken. Today, long modernized. You go uphill, you see settlement around you. Not much to look at first. But then you start to see really cool stuff. Such as the Rylander Theater, totally restored, and the Kingston Trio and many other acts have played here. Stacey says that she would like to see the Bradley Theater downtown Columbus revitalized in this way. But as you go up the street and sit at the traffic light, you see something ahead. The jewel of Americus, Georgia. The stately Windsor Hotel. This is where we are going. So we got out, like the people that we are, TV-making tourists with cameras. And we found something that has made an appearance in several of our day trips.
One thing that Americus still has is a Carnegie Library. It apparently is no longer a library, but it's still standing and is apparently a catering company now.
Standing on West Lamar Street, the hotel is too big to get into the camera. A gigantic turret housing the presidential and bridal suite. Then we decide it's time to amble inside. Inside is magnificence. The lobby is 3 stories high with a cathedral ceiling. Each floor has balconies overlooking for a great view. Most of the floors have carpeting, but where there is not, you can see the hardwood floor.
Hardwood is very beautiful, and you can see how the floors kind of tilt a little bit as you see off in the other buildings.
The staff and the owner of the Windsor Hotel were extremely accommodating, and Kurt Peterson gave us several interviews.
We are at the historic Best Western Plus Windsor Hotel in downtown Americus, Georgia. We're a historic hotel. It was built in 1892, so we are 121 years old this June. We're a small hotel, boutique style. We've got 53 rooms, including 2 in the Round Tower. There's the Jimmy Carter Presidential Suite as well as the Bridal Suite. We're kind of a landmark in downtown. A lot of people come here from far and wide to see the hotel. They have a lot of history with us, and we've had everyone from FDR when he was governor of New York. He spoke from that second level balcony. Musicians like Tim Kerr and Elliott Smith have stayed here at the hotel throughout the years. Well, in 1972, the hotel closed officially and was purchased actually by the city of Americus. They kind of took it on as a city project at that point. It took about 20 years and about $6 million to renovate and restore. In 1991, the hotel was reopened under the city's management, And then in 1998, a local family, the Patel family, bought it from the city. They are the current owners. A few years ago, we have aligned ourselves with the Best Western brand, but really that's in marketing purposes only, and we're still locally owned and operated.
Once you've made your way to the second story of the Windsor, you will find a restaurant. But not just any restaurant. This vintage dining room has been lovingly restored, top to bottom, to its former glory. Beautifully set tables await you to come in and have breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And still intact is the beautifully hand-laid tile floor that looks just like it did 120 years ago. To the right of the entrance is another room. Stacey will tell you.
Off to the side of the restaurant, its main dining room, is the Lindbergh private dining room. And this is a little alcove with a big table. And in the corner, there's a photograph of Charles Lindbergh in Americus with some local area businessmen.
A dining experience shared with the ghosts of greatness. Then Kurt took us to the turret, the bridal suite followed by the presidential suite.
This is actually the only room with a private staircase. All right, so we are at the toppermost part of the hotel. We're actually in one of the tower suites. This is our honeymoon or bridal suite. It's been renovated and restored. All the wallpaper covering is traditional. It's all historically accurate. This is actually Schumacher linen, which is a traditional British Victorian reproduction company that does different type of linen for wallpaper covering. The bridal suite, as you can see, you get almost like a 360 view of the downtown. We do have a king bed, half canopied king bed, which is really nice. Neat thing about this hotel room in particular is that in 1930s, Al Capone may have spent the night here. And there may be some truth to that because Highway 19, which is the north-south highway that runs up and down here, that goes right to the Gulf, and there was known to be a lot of stills in this part of the state, moonshine stills, and then he was also known to have a mistress down in Sumter City, which is kind of on the back way here, a few miles away over near Albany. So they say that he had armed guards at the bottom of the bridal suite stairs and allowed him kind of a lookout to see all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty neat. So a lot of history here, and of course everything's been updated. All of our rooms have microwaves, refrigerators, flat screen TVs, free wireless internet, and all the furnishings and everything too are handcrafted from Hickory, North Carolina, and they've been made to look distressed like older type furniture. So this is our main road. This is Lamar Street. Down here we do have which you can see, the Rylander Theater. That's our restored theater. It's built in 1921, closed for about 50 years, and then renovated and restored in time for President Carter's 75th birthday party. Right outside the theater, they have the Americus Walk of Fame, which features, among others, President and Mrs. Carter's handprint signatures in the concrete, Mallard and Linda Fuller, the folks that started Habitat for Humanity, and then people like Blind Pearlie Brown, who was a bluesman from Americus. Keith Austin, he was in a band called Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show, was from Americus, and more of like, it's a community theater. They do a lot of plays there, movies, sometimes silent movies and such. And then beyond there is our new courthouse, which has been recently rebuilt. They actually raised the old one, but right outside there's a group called Americus Sumter County Remembered, and they highlight some of the civil rights history from Americus. We actually have down in the courthouse square the original jail cell that Dr. Martin Luther King was held in back in 1961 when he was arrested in Albany, brought up to Americus, and along with Ralph Abernathy and Bill Anderson was held there overnight. Down here, this is Jackson Street. You can see our old Carnegie Library, which a lot of these smaller southern towns got funding from Andrew Carnegie to build libraries, and they are still standing. We are actually, the Americus is designated a historic district. This 6-block radius is on the National Historic Register, so any new businesses that come to town have to conform to that. They can't really have big neon signs or modern, type of buildings. They have to use existing signage or to make it look historic. Beyond that, beyond the Carnegie, is the oldest church in Americus, is the Americus Presbytery Church. That was built in 1843 or so, and they've got a kind of a neat little wooden chapel in there. Beyond that, that's Soapy's Barbershop, and Soapy Hundren is the proprietor there. It's just a one-chair barbershop. He's had that storefront since 1960, and he also sells fruit right outside. But that's where President Carter gets his haircut. So it's he's very community-minded, and Soapy's a good guy. Well, this is the former Allison Bank building. It was built in 1906, and back in 1923, the famed aviator Charles Lindbergh actually came to Americus and bought his first plane up at Sutherfield, which is not too far from here. That Sutherfield is actually the longest-serving airfield in the English language world. Actually, that's what they've told us recently. But Charles Lindbergh, stayed here at the hotel, and there was a pool hall down in the basement, and he would, play pool and kind of do the pool shark type stuff. And that was at the basement of the Allison Bank building.
Planning a wedding in the near future? Keep this in mind. Next, the presidential suite.
All right, so we are in the presidential suite. It's actually called the Carter Presidential Suite. Back in 2002, Jimmy and Rosalind Carter, who are good friends of the owners here at the Windsor, they were both having dinner with Mr. and Mrs. Patel. And, President Carter, historically the story goes is that President Carter was saying to Mr. Sherrod that if there's anything that he can do for the hotel to advertise or let people know about the hotel, please let him know. And Sherrod said that, well, actually, Mr. Carter, there is. We do have a presidential suite, but it's not the Jimmy Carter presidential suite. So Sherrod likes to tell this story. He says that President Carter looks at his watch and he says, well, how does next Tuesday sound? So they actually spent the night in this room, he and Miss Rosalind. And they're really good, big supporters of us here at the hotel. And as I mentioned, they'll eat in our dining room and really promote the hotel wherever they go in the world.
Either the bridal or the presidential suite are great for any occasion. Then back out into the hotel, meandering around. This place never gets old. The Windsor Hotel also has a pub.
Well, you can hear the bustling behind me in Floyds Bar. So, well, we got a long drive ahead, so we'll probably just get Coke and sweet tea, but we're going to check it out.
Floyds Bar is fully stocked with all of your favorite spirits and a staff that is on top of things. I don't know what this is, but it reeks of cool. Floyd's Bar is decked with hardwood floors, hardwood bar, and hard liquor, but softer things too.
I got a Diet Coke, and Brian Mallard got a sweet tea.
quite as hard as the floor, the bar, or the liquor, but delicious nonetheless.
Stacey and I took yet another opportunity to sit back and soak in the environment. Music from Floyds Bar emanating out onto the balcony. A perfect close for a trip to the Windsor Hotel.
The Windsor Hotel is a stunning historic hotel. It has 3 floors that are available for people to see and amazing balconies. There's a restaurant and a bar, so even if you don't stay here, if you pass through Americus, you should definitely stop in just to look around and maybe get a bite to eat.
It has become something of a tradition for Stacey and I to show you a cemetery on day trip, usually related to the towns that we visit, to show you the final resting places of the people who were members of the past. This one's a little different. Here lies my uncle, Archie James Green Jr. Beside him, my grandfather, Archie James Green, and beside him, my grandmother, Minnie Jewel Green. Day was fading, so it was time to move on to our last destination of the day.
Look at the sunset.
Sutherfield, with its own history.
It's beautiful.
After a few wrong turns, we found our way.
So we paused the camera and we got clearer directions. We know where we're going, sort of. Like Stacey said, we're assuming there will be little signs. Okay, so 2.8 miles, 5 minutes away from where we were 30 seconds ago. Stacey gets her updates by the minute.
Baby peace! Just trying to live their lives. Brian Mallard's barely down on them. Oh, the air smells so sweet, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Ladies and gentlemen, this is truly the country.
The entrance to Sutherfield. Sutherfield is a small airport outside of Americus, Georgia. As you drive down the long road heading towards it, you are heading toward an airport with a notable history. A history of which Stacey will give you some information in just a moment. The sunset over Sutherfield is beautiful, and I found that this is one of the most peaceful places I have been in a long time. I have no doubt that today, Sutherfield has a concrete runway, but preserved off to the side is a dirt field where I believe Charles Lindbergh actually took off.
Oh, there's a historical marker.
I'll get it in a moment.
Excellent.
Once parked and out of the car, Stacey couldn't wait to go and explore. And take a few pictures.
We are standing at Sutherfield, which is a teeny tiny airport, and it's the location of where Charles Lindbergh made his first ever solo flight before he started his barnstorming career. And later, you know, obviously he flew solo from, you know, America to France.
Charles Lindbergh at the time also entered pop culture.
It's called the Lindy Hop. I don't really know it. It's like, you're kind of skipping. I don't know. I saw a video. But he had a dance craze because he was very popular. He was like an American hero.
Here's something I like to say. That it's interesting that in the days of Charles Lindbergh, there was a dance craze after him, named after him, that in those days, heroes were adventurers. Fawcett, who went down to South America looking for the lost city of Z, Charles Lindbergh, pilot. Heroes were different people in those days. Heroes
Amelia
were not,
Earhart.
Amelia Earhart.
Indeed, among the biggest heroes of the day were men and women of a different breed.
We hope you have enjoyed this edition of Day Trip, where we take you to see places you may or may not have seen before, but really cool places.
So as I always say, if you have a weekend or a day off,
maybe you should consider taking a day trip.